So this week I thought I'd just mess around with Nanite. I hadn't actually played around with it before. I'd done plenty of photogrammetry and asset creation obviously, and yeah, I really wanted to see the workflow and how it was incorporated into Unreal Engine 5. The big takeaway, I'm pleasantly surprised, and I really like what they're doing there. They're obviously very conscious about this kind of workflow and what effects it has on artists. And well, a lot of the things that I thought about going into it were obviously the things that, you know, the team at Epic thought about as well, and they prepared their assets accordingly. All right, so where should I start? I got everything into Unreal Engine. I just put a simple scene together, and it was the asset that I'm looking at. Once you import it from Quixel Bridge, it just comes on like this. It's ready to go. And you really, you know, they don't really expose a whole bunch to artists, and I don't think it's a good idea to do that, because I think it introduces obstacles. So the way they've done it, I think, is really clever. If you're someone like me, your engine doesn't run like this engine, and so you end up having to be very conscious about verts and polygons and texture budgets. I'm really blown away just by how Nanite works, because the triangle count, it is a concern, and they address it here. So the source asset for this rock is actually 16 million polygons. I'm actually going to load it up in ZBrush. You don't actually see that unless you were to download the source files from Quixel. So as you can see here, this is almost 17 million polygons. The big thing I just couldn't get over in the previous video was, like, you really should not have to use a 16 million polygon mesh to create a believable rock. It's just overkill. And again, Epic has shown this restraint, because these meshes that come in are actually 2 million triangles and about a million verts. They go into this in their documentation, which is really cool, because it talks about how they go about compression and hardened, softened normals, that kind of thing. And yeah, just how to get the best out of Nanite. But again, you don't even need to get into that. You don't even need to mess with that if you don't want to. If you just want to kit bash assets together, have at it. You can very easily do that, and it's really cool to see that upon import from Quixel Bridge, they will give you an asset, you know, with materials, and everything's, yeah, really just set up, ready to go. So I've got some images just of the asset that I have. So this again is that same Nanite rock on import and the source asset. And so the actual source one, I thought I'd go around and play with it and rebake it. Sorry, not rebake it, but just knock off some polygons here and there. Let me double check how many I reduced it to. So this is the other asset that I imported. You know, standard affair, a rock. And you can see that the Nanite verts are just over 500,000, Nanite triangles just under 1 million. So half the resolution of this asset that I you know, downloaded from Quixel Bridge. Pretty sweet. And yeah, it's really just going through and comparing the differences. And as you might have guessed, barely anything. It's using the same materials, so I'm cutting corners there. Just toggling on and off again. And just a closer look at the surface geo. I remember seeing this and the artifacts on the Valley of the Ancients demo, and I actually thought it was trash in the way that you get these very hard faceted edges. And so I was looking at it thinking, you really don't want to rely on verts, especially if they manifest in this kind of artifacts, you know, these very harsh faceted edges. You're better off running a detail map into it and then just doing it entirely in you know, normal information. But what's cool is Nanite supports that too. So the technique that I thought would solve this is one that is already alive and kicking and usable. This kind of stuff here I think is a very easy fix. Yeah, you would just soften normal, so just try to get rid of this faceting, and you still get this nice kind of parallax that you have here in the foreground. Comparing it to the decimated mesh at half the resolution, you know, basically the same. There is UV distortion here because of the way I reduced it. One thing I really noticed about revising Nanite meshes and just messing around with it again is I really hate the workflow. It's just not nice to have handed large data sets like this and, you know, try to organize it basically. So in wrapping up, I just thought I'd show the actual mesh that I put together, which is an actual low poly mesh. And again, Nanite can work with this with any static mesh. So here it is. It's a little over 100,000 verts, close to 200,000 triangles. I have it here imported into the scene. Let me just turn this decimated one off. This is it. And I was pretty happy with that. So let me just pull this away. This really just goes back into, you know, how large do you want your asset to be? And how large will it be viewed in game? And yeah, I still have the same conclusion. Like, look, if you wanted to have some of this really nice detail of it intersecting with the ground, there are techniques to do that well. You could even get a nicer blend. Nanite is an obvious solution here, but you could also do the same with another mesh and, you know, save some geo. That statement of saving geo doesn't even seem to be a concern if you're using Unreal Engine. It's just yeah, not necessary. What I would say is working with large data sets is still an issue, and like I was doing all the middling work, all the background stuff just within Maya, you know, shifting UV shells and stuff like this. Even at 100,000 verts, like rotating a shell is painful. So I think, you know, as soon as Unreal starts doing this, I think this workflow will be much nicer. I don't think Epic will even support that kind of stuff because of the way their engine works. It can just handle large data sets. So people working and having to get very efficient assets seems to be a thing of the past. I want to put another asterisk there. Like, it really, again, depends on the game you're working on. But hey, Nanite's fantastic. I can't believe it took me so long to actually mess with it. And it really is enabling like a whole new level of artistry out there. And I'm really glad to see it. That's my video for this week. I'll check back in later, hopefully before the weekend. Thanks again.